Welcome to Thrive Again, where you will be motivated to live again. Don't forget to like this video if you like this video. Let's begin. In the quiet solitude of her home, she had an epiphany. She was more than just a teacher for an immature man. As the sun's rays filtered through the window, she found herself contemplating the frustrating cycle she was caught in. She was tired, exhausted from trying to encourage wisdom into a man who seemed more interested in the superficial aspects of life than growing as a person. She felt undervalued, used, as if her worth was reduced to being merely a mentor to this man who refused to mature. She was more than this. She had more to offer. But here she was, wasting precious moments on a man who saw her not as a partner, but as a stepping stone. She began to understand. It was like a dawn breaking over a long, dark night. She understood that she was valuable, deserving of respect and love, not merely a mentor to a man unwilling to grow. Her journey was not without its hardships. She often found herself entangled in the charm of his good looks and flirtatious ways. This was a tale as old as time, a dance as familiar as the rhythm of her own heart. His magnetic allure drew her in, time and time again, like a moth to a flame, unable to resist the tantalizing glow of his captivating smile. His charm was his weapon, his good looks the shield that deflected any reasonable doubt. She was caught in a whirlwind of emotions, a tornado of feelings that whipped around her, leaving her disoriented and confused. The highs were dizzying, the lows soul-crushing. She was a ship adrift in a stormy sea, tossed about by the waves of his inconsistent affection. One moment she was the center of his universe, the next a mere afterthought, discarded and forgotten. His words, oh his words, they were like honey, sweet and intoxicating, promising a world filled with love and happiness. But she soon realized that words were just that, words. They were not actions, they were not tangible. They could not be held or relied upon. They were as fleeting as the wind with no foundation. She found herself teaching him, guiding him, hoping to mold him into the man she needed him to be and the man he should aspire to be in God. But it was a futile endeavor, for she learned that one cannot pour from an empty cup. One cannot draw wisdom from a well that is dry. He had nothing to offer her, no depth, no substance. His good looks and charm were but a facade, hiding a hollow core. The struggle was real, the pain was palpable. She tried to convince herself that his beauty could make up for his lack of substance, that his charm could balance out his immaturity. But she knew deep down that a pretty face does not compensate for a lack of depth, respect, or loyalty. She was more, she deserved more. And with that knowledge, she found the strength to navigate her way out of the storm. One day, she looked out her window, her eyes reflecting a determination that had been absent before. This moment was not born of a sudden epiphany, but rather the culmination of countless small frustrations, heartaches, and disappointments. It was the realization that she had been selling herself short, that she was, in fact, the jewel of her own story, not a mere side character in someone else's. She had spent so many moments, too many moments, trying to mold him into the man she deserved. She was the teacher in their relationship, constantly imparting wisdom, while he, the pupil, had nothing to offer but heartache. She had been so caught up in the promise of his good looks and charm that she had overlooked the glaring void where maturity and seriousness should have been. But on this day, she finally acknowledged the truth. She was more than an unpaid tutor, more than a backdrop to his frivolous flirtations. She was a woman of value, deserving of respect, deserving of a love that was loyal and true. She was not just a beautiful face, but a mind teeming with intelligence, a heart brimming with kindness. The decision wasn't easy. After all, there was a certain comfort in the familiar, no matter how unsatisfying. But she knew she couldn't settle for comfort at the cost of her self-respect. It was time to reclaim her worth, time to demand the respect she deserved. She was ready to let go of the man who had taken her for granted and step into a future where she was the priority. In this moment of clarity, she made the decision that would change her life. She wouldn't just survive, she would thrive again. She wouldn't just exist, she would live. She was done being the fool in someone else's story. She was ready to be the heroine of her own. She decided she would no longer accept less than what she was worth. She embarked on a journey of self-discovery and self-love. This journey was not about distance traveled or destinations reached. It was about exploration inward, a deep dive into the heart of who she was and who she was meant to be. She began by peeling away the layers of her identity that she had allowed to be defined by others. She discarded the labels that had been thrust upon her, the expectations that had been woven around her like a shroud. It was a process, slow and sometimes painful, but necessary. She started to spend time with herself, really getting to know who she was. She indulged in her passions, those little sparks that had been dimmed by the constant need to please others. She painted, she wrote, she danced. She let herself be free. She found solace in solitude, finding that being alone did not mean being lonely. She discovered the beauty of her own company, the peace that came with not having to constantly adjust herself to fit someone else's mold. She began to understand her worth, not in terms of what she could do for others, but for who she was. She was more than a support system, more than a teacher, more than a beautiful face. She was a force to be reckoned with, a woman of strength and substance. She learned to love herself, truly and deeply. Not the love that is conditional, that depends on achievements or appearances, but the kind of love that is all-encompassing, that sees flaws and imperfections and embraces them. She was not perfect, but she was perfectly herself. She built a relationship with herself, one that was based on respect and understanding. She started to treat herself with the kindness and compassion she had always extended to others. She learned to be her own best friend. And as she journeyed, she began to change. She grew stronger, more confident. She radiated a kind of beauty that came from within, a beauty that was a reflection of her self-love and self-respect. She realized that her value is not determined by a man's inability to see it. She was valuable, not because someone else said so, but because she knew it to be true. And with that knowledge, she continued her journey, knowing she was worthy of love and respect. She stood amidst a crowd, her smile brighter than the sun, her spirit unbroken. There she was, a picture of resilience, a beacon of self-worth, a testament to the power of self-respect. She had emerged from the cocoon of her past, not as a fragile butterfly, but as a formidable phoenix, risen from the ashes of her trials and tribulations. Her journey had not been easy, but the woman she had become was worth every struggle, every tear, every moment of hurt. She had learned, through heartbreak and disappointment, the value of her own worth. She had discovered that she was not a mere accessory to someone else's life, but a masterpiece in her own right, worthy of respect, worthy of loyalty, worthy of love. She had come to realize that she was not defined by the voids in her life, but by the abundance as a child of God. Her triumph was not in finding a man who could validate her, but in realizing that she did not need validation from anyone but herself. She had learned to fill her own cup, to weave her own story, to write her own destiny. She had learned to love herself, to respect herself, and to demand the same from those around her. Her eyes sparkled with the knowledge of her worth, her smile radiated the joy of her self-love, and her aura reflected the peace she had found within herself. She had transformed her pain into power, her sorrow into strength, her dreams into reality. She was no longer the woman who waited for a man to complete her. She was the woman who had found her worth, the woman who had triumphed over her past. Her spirit, once broken, was now unbreakable. Her heart, once wounded, was now a wellspring of love. Her mind, once clouded by doubt, was now filled with the clarity of self-worth. She was ready to embrace a future where she was respected, where she was valued, where she was loved for who she was. She had learned that she deserved a love that was loyal and true, a love that respected her worth. She had a message for everyone who had ever felt undervalued, unappreciated, or disrespected. Her voice echoed with a profound wisdom, born out of heartache and self-discovery. "Recognize your worth," she implored. "Do not let anyone belittle your value or cast shadows over your brilliance." She spoke about the importance of demanding respect in relationships, of not allowing anyone to treat you as a mere convenience or a fleeting diversion. "Your heart," she said, "is not a playground for the immature or the non-committal. It is a treasure to be cherished and protected." She stressed the necessity of self-love and self-respect. "Love yourself first," she advised. "Respect yourself always, because when you do, you won't settle for anything less from others." Her words were a beacon, a guide for those lost in the labyrinth of disrespect and undervaluation. Never settle for less than you deserve. Because you, yes, you are valuable. You are worthy and you deserve respect. Yes, you can and will thrive again.